Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. Back today to do the Carol of the Books book tag. This was created by Holly over at Lovely Day with Holly and is one of your classic book tags where you have a phrase, a prompt, and you've got to fit a book to go with it. This time it's focused all around famous Christmas carols. So without much further ado, let's just get straight into these questions. Prompt number one is It Came Upon a Midnight Clear, a nighttime scene on the cover, and for this I'm going to recommend The Silent Stars Go By Sally Nichols. This is historical fiction with a bit of romance thrown in, set around World War I and the end of World War I, with our main character who had a childhood sweetheart who went away to war, and in the intervening years there has been a bit of a family secret. The main bulk of the story is taking place on the week around Christmas when he is going to be finally coming home, and we know that there will be some sort of reckoning about their relationship. Prompt number two is A Little Town of Bethlehem, and it is to talk about a book set in a small town. I've been reading a whole lot of Christmas romances this year, and one of my favourites is Under the Mistletoe with You by Lizzie Huxley Jones. This is the second book in her series, which started with Make You Mine This Christmas. This follows one of the characters from the previous book, Christopher. A year on from the events of the first book, he now lives in Wales. He's opened up a bakery, which is his dream. He's living in this small rural town, really kind of getting to grips with the local area. He's planning on going up to York to celebrate with his friends and family, but unfortunately there is a freak blizzard and he gets completely snowed in. However, he was meant to be Airbnb-ing his house, completely forgets about this until he hears a knock on the door, and it's the person who was meant to be staying. What he didn't realise is that the actual recipient of this Airbnb is Nash Nadeau, a famous actor and Christopher's secret crush. Stuck in a small town at Christmas and in forced proximity, I wonder what's going to happen next. Song number three is Joy to the World, this time looking at a book with a global setting. I actually struggled to find a good book for this, particularly a good fiction book, because my typical read is romance or historical fiction, and they tend to be pretty isolated in one space, at least the kind of history that I tend to read. But I did finally land on Carrie Soto Is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, because this is looking at a fictional tennis player who is one of the very best female tennis players in the world, and obviously, how does she prove that? She goes to all of the many tennis opens around the world, and we get to follow along with her as she plays the game and is trying to prove once and for all that she is the best tennis player of all time. Song number four is Silent Night, a book which has an element of silence in the story. Now, typically when I was picking books for these prompts, I wanted to stick to books that I've read fairly recently, like in the last couple of years, but upon hitting upon this prompt, I couldn't not mention The Dumb House by John Burnside, which is a book that I read almost 10 years ago now, but features a rather horrible protagonist who is obsessed with language and decides that he wants to experiment on babies to see if language is innate or if it's something that we only do because obviously we hear grown-ups around us using it. Part of the story involves him taking twin babies and never speaking to them to see what happens next. It's really dark and twisted. I hear the main character in this is quite reminiscent of Patrick Susskind's Perfume, which is a book that I haven't actually read yet. But yeah, I found this quite dark and chilling. Song number five is I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, which asks you to pick a book with married main characters. And for this, I'm picking a book that I read very recently, The Captive Queen by Alison Weir, which is about one of the most famous royal couples in all of history, Eleanor of Aquitaine and Henry II of England, who, to say that their relationship was pretty turbulent, passionate, yes, but incredibly turbulent, considering that, as the title suggests, The Captive Queen, Henry II kept Eleanor of Aquitaine locked up for years after she supported their son's rebellion against him. Bit of a rollercoaster, this kind of period of English history, and definitely is reflected in this story. Quite a dynamic that these two have in this book. Song number six is Away in a Manger, the prompt being to pick a book set on a farm or including farm animals. Once again, going back to the romances, I have The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore, of which I have now read all of the books in this series so far, and the main reason that I picked this is that the male love interest is a farmer, and a very cute aspect of this book is that he names his animals after different pop singers. I think one coming to mind is a llama that's called Harry Styles, and I just thought that was very funny. Song number seven is I'll Be Home for Christmas, and for this you have to find a book with a character trying to get home. And when I was trying to think of books for this, I was just willing myself, don't say the Odyssey, don't say the Odyssey, don't say the Odyssey, don't say the Odyssey. But I think I'm gonna have to. I realised going through these prompts that I don't actually read a whole lot of books that are about travelling, and especially not ones that are about people travelling home, where that is the main plot of the story. So I think I'm gonna have to go for the very original one and say Odysseus in the Odyssey. Oh, that's so predictable, I'm sorry. Though saying all of this, I have recently read Stephen Fry's retelling of the Odyssey and I really enjoyed it, so it's kind of front of mind. But yeah, what else could I pick for this? Let me know your answers for a book that is about a character trying to get home, because there must be another one that I've read. Song number 8 is We Three Kings, picking a book which features a trio of main characters. Once again, I'm realising how little I actually read of this in the fiction that I read, so I ended up going for a non-fiction book that I've read this year, which is Young Queens by Leah Redmond Chang, which is a 16th century history looking at the lives of Mary Queen of Scots, Catherine de Medici and Elizabeth de Valois, who were all together in the French court for a short period of time, then ended up going their separate ways, Elizabeth going to Spain to get married, Catherine de Medici staying in France, and Mary Queen of Scots going back to Scotland to take up her position as Queen Regnant. This book is really looking at the influence that these three women had on each other, both while they were in the French court and when they were further afield from each other. So instead of We Three Kings, we have We Three Queens. Song number 9 is The 12 Days of Christmas, and for this you simply have to find a book with 12 letters in the title. And from the books that I've read this year, the only one that I could find actually was At First Spite by Olivia Dade. Question number 10 is In the Bleak Midwinter, and we are picking a book that is set in wintertime or which features snow. Once again, Under the Mistletoe with You by Lizzie Huxley Jones would be a very good pick for this, but I actually have a video full of winter and Christmas book recommendations I'm going to link down below. I don't want to repeat myself too much, and I have a whole load of recommendations that you can pick up, so I will link them down below for you. Song number 11 is Blue Christmas, and the prompt, once again, very simple, is to find a book that is all blue on the cover. I'm presuming this is just like the images are all blue rather than the images and the text, because that would be kind of hard to read, and I definitely didn't come across any books that were completely blue. But one that has an all blue cover but the text is white is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I came across this edition when I last went to Blackwell's. I think it is really stunning, like a really simple design but very well done. Song number 12 is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, a plot that deals with bullying. Whenever I think of bullying, I tend to think of YA, and particularly books that are set in schools, which I haven't actually read for quite a while. So the one that came most readily to mind was not bullying in a school context, but kind of cyberbullying and media bullying individuals, and I thought of Wreck the Halls by Tessa Bailey. This is a book I actually have recently done a review video for. It's another Christmas romance. I wasn't a massive fan of it, but one aspect of it that I really did like was the theme of how media really harshly scrutinises celebrities or people who are adjacent to celebrities, and particularly the differences in coverage between men and women, with our main character of Melody being treated much harsher than her male counterpart Beat. Song number 13 is Hark, the Herald Angels Sing. This is the song that we would end every carol service at school with because it had the highest descant. You find yourself kind of screeching at the end. And the prompt is a book which has a portrayal of the spiritual world. For this one, I'm going to go with a short story collection, The Winter Spirits. This is written by a collection of different historical fiction authors across the UK and Ireland. And there are many aspects of the spiritual world being featured in this book, but the one that I'm thinking of the most is one which features a seance, which gets very dark and creepy. Also picking this one because I didn't want to have to say A Christmas Carol, but just know that is the first thing that pops to mind for me. Penultimate song now, song number 14, It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year. The prompt for this being a story that manipulates time in some way. So we're thinking time travel in some sort of way, and the one that I went for is King of Shadows by Susan Cooper. This is a historical fiction which sees our main character of Nat Field, an American going on a school trip to Shakespeare's Globe, getting very seriously ill and finding himself time travelling to late 16th century London, and he ends up meeting and performing with William Shakespeare on the first production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but the end of the book really shows how this time travel ended up affecting the past and making sure that Shakespeare was the well-known name that we know today. Then the final carol is actually my favourite of the ones, and it is the namesake for this tag, Carol of the Bells. I just love this so much. I love singing this one so much. And the prompt is a plot where music is a key element. And for this, I had to pick a book that I read this year. It's one of my favourite books I've read this year, and it is The Instrumentalist by Harriet Constable. Such a brilliant book, and I'm not hearing enough people talking about it. This is historical fiction set in Venice in the early 18th century. We are looking at the young life of Anna Maria di Pieta, who is an orphan living at the Ospedale della Paletta. I don't speak Italian, can you tell? Where abandoned young girls are sent to be taught music and to be trained up as young ladies to either be instrumentalists or to be valuable to society through marriage. Anna Maria, as we find out, is a music prodigy and is an incredibly gifted violinist, and we see her making her way up the ranks in this music school, and particularly how her life turns when she ends up being tutored by Antonio Vivaldi, the closeness of their relationship, but also how it starts to deteriorate when it becomes clear that Vivaldi is stealing some of her compositions. It was an absolutely beautiful, atmospheric, very stifling book, and I really think more people should read this. So there we go, those are the end of the questions for the Carol of the Bells book tag. Really enjoyed doing this one. I'd love to hear any of your recommendations that you would have to fit for any of these song prompts. Alternatively, let me know if you read any of the books I've spoken about today and what you thought about them. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic, fantastic day and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.